Hi, everyone, and welcome to this kickoff for the Masters Week. In the coming hour, we'll be talking with 4 speakers on the different themes that we have for this Masters Week, the different themes that we're working on at TU Delft. And I will be your host for the full hour. I'm Stefan Buisman, an assistant professor at the TU Delft, working at the Faculty for Technology, Policy and Management, specifically on the philosophy of technology. So a lot of my personal work is on the ethics of digital technologies, our use of artificial intelligence, how we can responsibly develop and use all these different technologies. Very much in line with the theme for today. So the impact that we want to make, the contribution to society that we want to make with technology. For that theme today, we'll have, like I said, 4 different speakers, specifically on these 4 different themes that you can see on the slide behind me. So we'll start with someone on digital society and then move on to health and care, resilient cities and mobility, as well as climate and energy. So that's the plan. We'll be talking through some of these different topics, the different master's programs that we have in Delft related to these topics. And after this session, if you've gotten really excited about joining us at TU Delft, you can immediately jump in to an admission session. So that starts today at 6. And later this week, as well as later today, we'll have more specific program sessions of the individual master's programs. So that's later this evening, as well as Tuesday and Wednesday. And then finally on campus on Thursday, we'll have a master's market. You can still register for all of those events via the website tudelft.nl/mastersweek. And we look forward to seeing you at lots of these events, of course. First, however, we have these topics for today and this idea of contributing to society with technology. And it's something that's really embedded in the fiber of TU Delft. Part of our mission statement is impact. And I think you see that really nicely in the different topics that we'll be covering today, but also since I'm still here for another minute on my own introduction in the work that we're doing at the digital ethics topics. So we very actively as a university work together with the Dutch government, with the central bank, with companies in recruitment, etc., to really make a difference to their work and to help them design digital technologies responsibly and actively contribute to a better society. In line with that, since that's such a core element of our mission as a university, I think we want to start now with a Mentimeter quiz to get you up and running, to get you to think and contribute. So we'll switch over to Mentimeter for a second with the question here: how would you, as prospective students, like to contribute to society with technology? So feel free to fill in some responses. In the meantime, it's really about these societal themes. So we have some ideas on how we can contribute with technology to society. We look forward to taking you through those. And one thing that I really want to encourage everyone, in addition to responding to the Mentimeter here, you have the code 25177823. So in addition to responding to the Mentimeter, also feel free to put questions for the different speakers that we'll have here in the chat. They'll show up here on my screen, and then we can also ask them to people live as they are talking with me. I see it's taking you a little bit of time to respond to the Mentimeter, but really I encourage you to do so. It's a nice way of making this a little bit more of an interactive event than just talking to a screen for an hour. Oh, wonderful. Yes, people working on the energy transition, trying to find a way to decrease CO2 from the atmosphere and even reusing it. Yeah, I think these are really wonderful. So the energy transition is something that we'll be talking about later on in the climate and energy theme, together with someone who is actively working on this in a spin-off. Safety, yeah, we have a whole center for safety and security science at TU Delft working on technology and how we can ensure that it's safe and keeps us safe. New innovations are really important to that. Wonderful. Solving sustainability problems. Yeah, work processes that are easier and faster through AI. One of the nice initiatives that we have at the TU Delft is a new lab on the future of work, where we have a really interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach, bringing different people from robotics, ethics, computer science, industrial design together to improve the quality of work. Health is another big topic, definitely improving people's lifestyles. Urban planning and design will come up a little bit later as well. So wonderful. Great that you're all joining in, and definitely keep up the good spirit in filling in these questions. And like I said, feel also free to put any questions to our speakers in the chat as I'm talking to them here. And I think with that, we can actually move on to the first speaker for today. So we have here for the Digital Society program or Digital Society theme, Cecile Volten.
Hi.
Cecile, hi. Thank you for joining us. So you're an alumna from the Engineering and Policy Analysis Master.
That's right.
And you just started a PhD here at TU Delft.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. How did you start here? Why did you choose engineering and policy analysis?
I also did the bachelor at the Technology, Policy and Management faculty because I wanted to have a degree in which it combined the technical subject with the more policy-making subjects and the management subjects. And I really liked TPM. I really liked the faculty. I liked the university, so I decided to stay for my master's.
What did you like about TPM and the faculty?
I like the fact that there are many people who know what they're working on. I have the feeling that the knowledge that's around is substantial. There are many people who can talk to you, who can help you, supervise you, and there are many ideas. And I like the fact that there is a lot of project work as well.
And one of the projects that you were specifically working on was cybercrime.
Yeah.
So you just started your PhD on this. Can you say a little bit about your PhD topic now and what brought you back to TU Delft?
Yeah, of course. My PhD topic is on the facilitators or the facilitating service providers of cybercrime, which are services such as crypto exchanges, cryptocurrency exchanges, or hosting providers. And I'm looking into what we can do, or how do these services work, and what can the government do to disable cybercrime, actually. How can we diminish cybercrime and make the digital society more secure?
Yeah, that's really important. Is there already anything that you can share on what should we be doing? Do you know anything about how effective things like regulation have been for reducing cybercrimes?
Well, my graduation thesis was about the cryptocurrency exchanges and the legislation the Dutch government imposed on them. And so far, it's kind of a doubt whether it was effective, but I'm still looking into it. So it's still not completely
it's an
ongoing process.
Yeah. And now your idea is partly to look into what we should be doing instead.
Yeah.
So do you have any plans on what we should be doing? Any ideas?
Not yet. No, I'm not that far into the process yet. But I think it's good that we as TU Delft first try to get an overview of what are facilitators of cybercrime and how does cybercrime come to be? Like, how does it work? And who is helping them?
Yeah. And does anyone know at this point who is facilitating and why we get cybercrime?
I think there are people at the faculty who know, and they are helping me. So that's that's really nice. I have really good supervision. Yeah.
Yeah. Which part of the faculty actually is supervising you on cybercrime?
The cybersecurity part of the faculty.
Yeah. So we have a whole center for cybersecurity.
Yeah, and I think it's also combined with the computer science faculty. They have a sort of cybersecurity group, which is together.
Yeah, really nice. And of course, you didn't directly start your PhD after your master. So can you tell us a little bit more about your career after your EPA masters?
Yes. After the masters, I decided to work for the Dutch government for almost 1.5 years to see how does it work in practice. And I wanted to have my societal impact in that way by working for the Dutch government. But I found out that I really wanted to go into the subjects themselves and have more time to explore and to focus on the research part, which is what brought me back to the TU Delft.
Yeah, really the research you got excited about.
Yeah.
How did the masters help prepare you for this? So if you look at the EPA masters, what kind of topics did it cover? How did it help prepare you for the digital society themes that you're tackling now?
The EPA Masters has several tracks, and I chose the cybersecurity track. So that's in line with the research I'm doing now. And on top of that, I think the master prepares you for, amongst other things, the PhD by letting you get in touch with different types of research methods, either programming or more of the qualitative types of research.
Yeah, and for the internship you did in between, there was a lot of policy analysis.
Yeah, yeah. So the more the policy part and getting to know the subjects and exactly how does the Dutch government work. That's also part of the EPA Masters.
Yeah, which I think you wouldn't normally expect at a technical university, right? So how did you see this fit in with the rest of TU Delft? It's a very broad question. But...
Very broad question. I think that was one of the main reasons why I chose to go to the TPM faculty in the first place, because I wanted to find something which was the bridge between government and the technical, really in-depth subject technological background. And the TPM faculty provides that bridge.
Yeah, sort of in between trying to link policy to technology and all the other engineering that we do.
But I think you can also see it not just for the government, but also at companies. You also need someone who can bridge the talking to people to the technical guys.
Yeah, figuring out what kind of solutions should we actually have? How should we design these? What do we want from them?
Yeah, exactly.
And then actually talking to the people who need to build it.
Build it. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So if in the meantime there are any questions from the audience, again, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't see any of them pop up just yet. So maybe we can, since we have a little bit more time, also dive into the Bitcoin services that you did your graduation project on.
Yeah.
How are they viewing this regulation and all the efforts of preventing cybercrime for cryptocurrency?
Well, to be a little bit more specific, I looked at the money laundering part through cryptocurrencies, which kind of makes sense, of course. The cryptocurrency exchanges themselves, they are really active in countering money laundering because they know the high risks they are facing. So they actually stayed that far before the legislation was imposed. They were already trying to update their systems, make sure that they know who they are dealing with. So they've had quite some process before the legislation was imposed. So they actually found it a bit late.
Does the legislation then listen to everything that they've tried to do, or did they sort of attempt to reinvent the wheel?
I think with many technological updates on regulations, it's often the last thing you said. Often they are trying to impose rules of an old system on a new sector.
Yeah. So, and the same thing happened here.
Yeah.
Were there lessons that you found during your master's project and now going into your PhD and how we should do this differently?
That's a tough question. I think one of the most important lessons is that they should do it together. The crypto exchanges have so much knowledge on how the technology works, whereas the policymakers have a lot of knowledge on how does it work politically, how does it does policy making work? And they both say that they would have liked to talk to each other more. So I would suggest them to find each other.
How do you see your master's fit in there from engineering and policy analysis perspective?
Well, since I know a little bit about the policy making and a little bit about the technology, or not a little bit, having done the EPA masters would be the perfect bridge
exactly,
function.
Trying to get them to talk together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right, wonderful. Yeah. Well, I still don't see questions from the audience pop up. Again, feel free to ask them. We would be very happy to tackle them here. And if you still have questions afterwards, you can also put them in the chat, and Cecile will answer them later on. Maybe to finish up, do you have any advice for everyone who's watching today on how they could approach their choice of a master's?
Well, someone once told me this advice, and I would like to just give it to other people as well. Look at the subjects that you're going to follow, because we all give really nice advertising talks, but in the end, you're not just doing a master's to see the advertising. You're following or taking the courses, and the courses are the subjects that you're going to study. So use the course guide, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And the course guides are online. They're openly available, so anyone can look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful advice. Again, thank you so much, Cecile.
Thank you.
To take us through some of your work on digital society. Thank you. And then we have another Mentimeter quiz, or well, question for you. Yeah. So we'll switch over to that. I see there were even more answers to how people wanted to contribute to society. Yeah, we have a new question on the same Mentimeter code. What is most important to you in your choice for a master's program? So just to see, well, Cecile just mentioned on her end that it was really the courses that she was looking at, but what for you would be the most important element in this choice? Now we'll get back to those answers, since you'll need a minute or so to fill them in. We'll get back to those answers after the next speaker, namely on health and care. So we have with us Niels van Damme, who is currently a master's student at electrical engineering. Niels, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hi. Well, really happy to have you here. So you're at electrical engineering. What kind of master's are you doing there exactly?
Well, yeah, currently I'm doing my master's in microelectronics. So yeah, I'm currently doing my thesis. I'm in second year. I'm doing that thesis at the bioelectronics section, and I'm doing a master in microelectronics. So yeah, that's.
And how did you end up doing a master's here in microelectronics? What was your trajectory like at TU Delft before this?
Yeah, well, just as I started my bachelor here in Delft as well, I started studying electrical engineering. And it's maybe a bit a weird story, but I selected electrical engineering actually since I didn't know that much about the topic. Electricity, I liked what the outcome was, so electric systems, but I didn't know that much about how it would work. So I thought, well, maybe nice to study that. So I started my bachelor's in electrical engineering. After that, I oriented more into robotics. So I did a minor in robotics in my third year. It was a really cool, nice project, but I found out that the robotics direction was not that as I expected it was. So then I decided to do microelectronics. And in my case, I connected microelectronics more towards health and care as well. So I choose within the microelectronics track the biomedical signals or not the devices and systems track. So you combine it actually both. And I really like that, since technology itself is cool, but I also wanted to have a kind of application for that. And within health, they're really cool applications for electronics.
Yeah. So your choice was really, well, first roughly interest based, but then looking at, okay, but what can we do with electronic devices in health and care?
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you have some interest in the healthcare domain before this, that you chose specifically bioelectronics?
Well, yeah, what I really liked always actually was the idea within healthcare and health is that you can take care of someone else probably. So you can design technology which in the end might end up for people who have some sickness or need some therapy, and you can help those people with that. And that was a concept I really liked. So that was the idea behind to in the end end up into bioelectronics. So not purely technology, but also related to care and health. Yeah,
no, and it might not be the first thing that people think about it when they think about TU Delft and the kind of work that we do, but there are a lot of these kinds of projects together with healthcare. Do you also work together with some of the academic hospitals for this, or not you specifically?
I'm not specifically working with hospitals, since my research itself is more fundamentally based. It has an application in the end, but I know from colleagues or other students which are in the group as well who have a relation with, for example, Erasmus MC. So they do a project which is related to both TU Delft and an hospital indeed. So that's possible. Yeah.
Well, so like you said, you're doing slightly more theoretical research. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're currently working on in your master's project?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's more based in the context of bioelectronic medicine. So examples of things people are working on within the group is, for example, artificial retinas. So people who are blind, they are actually researching to make devices to miniaturize the technology in order to fit into an eye bulb and to replace kind of the retina and give some sight back to people within certain pixels. Other examples are, for example, electronic drug capsules. So when you normally intake drugs, it spreads throughout your whole body with some side effects as a cause. So by making electronic capsules, they are going through the right spot into your body, and then giving the drug does reduce side effects. And another aspect is the stimulation of nerves or stimulation of brain. So how to stimulate those, and that's actually the area in which I do my master project. So I have one slide for that. My master project is about a cuff implant, as you can see here. The final idea is, I will not do that in my master thesis, but the final idea is to implant it at the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is a nerve throughout the neck. It connects the brain to some body organs, and it has importance, for example, for moods, so depression and epilepsy. And in the end, I'm working on an implant, as you can see here. So it should be wrapped around the nerve, some sutures to enclose it, and in the end, stimulate the vagus nerve itself. And stimulation can be done with multiple technologies. One technology is with electrodes, so really charge-based, but another quite new technology is using ultrasounds, so just sound waves, pressure waves, to activate the nerve. And in my master thesis specifically, I'm researching the idea to make a design like this, but then not with electrodes, like in this specific case, but using piezoelectric ultrasound transducers. And the benefit of that is that you can target nerve fibers specifically without penetrating the nerve as you would normally need when you use electrodes. So yeah, that's in short a bit the study I'm doing. But yeah, it's quite fundamentally. So ultrasound, how do waves behave? What kind of design is the best design to make for good stimulation? But it has also the microfabrication part inside. So how are you going to actually make that? And since nerves are tiny and small, how are you going to miniaturize technology? So yeah, it's quite broad. I really like it, and it has a specific purpose as well in the end. So you know what you're doing it for, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, Yeah, in the meantime, we got a question from the audience, so it's nice to
Sure.
take that in the middle a bit. In what way was robotics not what you expected? Since you mentioned in your, you didn't quite get from it what you wanted, and that made you switch. So what was it?
Well, yeah. I did a project, so within a multidisciplinary team, we built a robot for a company, and a really concept robot. So we did also some practice work, but the focus within a robotic area is a bit on technology, but also quite a lot on human interaction. So when you have a robot, how to deal with humans, when you have a co-robot, for example, how does collaboration work the best, and how to design a robot not to make people afraid from it. And those specific topics, it was nice to know them, but the focus on those specific topics was too much. So I thought, well, it's maybe better to just go into the technical direction, so electronics in my case, and go on into that track more instead of the application of robotics. So yeah.
Yeah. No,
someone else might maybe like it, but in my case, it was not the topic I really liked to go on with.
And so you ended up here with nerves and very technical, fundamental work. But despite that, you mentioned that you still are occasionally in the lab, working on the more application side. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the lab work that you've also done?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's actually a really nice part I like within this master as well. So during my master thesis, I'm actually trained for working in the lab, specifically the Elsa Coy lab in my case. So that's at the low-rise building of AWE. You have a chip lab. So you work with chips and how to fabricate them. Here on the picture, you see us during a training, since having trainings, that's an important thing before you can enter the lab. Some safety trainings, also know how the machinery works, what kind of materials you need, and for example, also how to dress yourself. And actually the dressing is not to protect yourself for the environment, but the environment for you, since you are actually exposing quite some dust and hair, for example, and since everything is at a micro scale, at a nanoscale, even a hair can make shortcuts within imported electronics, so you damage your devices. Therefore, everything needs to be really clean. You have airflows and also special chutes to prevent too many particles in the air. And in my specific case, well, you saw the implant at the other slide, for example. This is a diameter of approximately 2 millimeters, so really tiny. And then it's up to me how to fabricate that on a wafer within this lab, and to make sure that that technology works at that small scale. And I'm really doing that by myself. So before you think about the design, and then after you go into the lab and actually try it. Exactly. Yeah. And that gives quite some dynamics. I really like that combination. Yeah.
Actually building something that will end up helping people.
Yeah, within care while you're actually doing electronics. So I really
wonderful.
Like it. Yeah.
Just to wrap up then, as a final question, is there anything that you want to give the students with them as advice when they're thinking about their master's choice now?
Well, as an advice, I would say first think about what you would like to do, and then that you can maybe have a look at profiles. So you can, of course, choose a track, but within tracks, you have also opportunities to broaden your track and actually combine multiple disciplines. In my case, choosing the bioelectronic profile. And I would advise to, within your master, so selecting a master, look for broadening it maybe with selecting certain topics, anatomy and physiology, for example, to broaden it more to health, or more microfabrication, circuit design. You have quite some freedom, so use that in your master. I would suggest that.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Niels, for joining us.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Thanks. And then we'll get back to the Mentimeter that we had right before Niels' his talk. Let's see. Lovely that you've had so many responses here. Courses, well, as was already mentioned, of course, also by Cecile, subjects, the impact of these programs. Well, I hope that Niels, but also Cecile, with how she was talking about the relevance of her research for cybercrime, etc. Really does matter in terms of impact. Interdisciplinarity, I happen to see here, is a big part of a lot of these programs. In my personal experiences from the Faculty of Technology, Policy and Management, you are actually required to have interdisciplinary supervisors for your master's projects. There are lots of these kinds of opportunities to work together across disciplines. There's a joint interdisciplinary project during your master's where you're in interdisciplinary teams working on a problem for, let's say, the national police or companies, making a difference, balancing tech and social, well, enjoyment, obviously. Research is of course a big part of all of these programs. So that makes for, I think, a really nice list of innovation, challenges, and the different interests that people have. So that's a wonderful set of answers to our next our second Mentimeter question. And I think with that we can make a nice switch back to our themes, which are of course all about these different subjects and the impact that you can have with them. And the next theme that we have now is on resilient cities and mobility, and we're joined for that by Hanna Adamczyk from Poland. You're an international student at the Masters for Architecture.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so
yes.
Thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Delft?
Yes, of course. So, hi, I'm Hanna, and I come from Poland, where I also did my bachelor. I graduated from Gdańsk University of Technology, and after that, I just decided to do a one-year break to gain some professional experience. So I did some internships in France and Denmark within architectural environment, in architectural offices, and I really enjoyed to work with international environment over there. So back then I started to think actually to apply for a master abroad. So then Delft came to my mind because I've heard that it's amazing international environment here. And also I started to dive more into the program, and the program for architecture is really, really broad. You can really find something for yourself that you're interested in most. So yeah, that's how I ended up here after my bachelor in Poland and some internships in Europe.
Yeah. And aside from the breadth of the architecture program, was there anything else that really made you choose Delft as opposed to all the other architecture programs that you have across Europe?
Yes, actually, when I started to see the program, actually you can really choose from like 12 different studios within architecture track, from heritage to urban design and from landscape to architectural engineering studio, which I did for my first semester. And that was my first project at TU Delft, and the studio was called Extreme Architecture, and it was about dealing with different extreme environmental and societal conditions. And our project was focused more on the location of Saba and San Martin, which are Dutch Caribbean islands, and they are dealing with hurricanes and earthquakes during the different seasons. So that was a challenge for us, for students to make a design for. The assignment was to do the daycare center and the kindergarten. For me, it was on Saba. So to keep the whole circular design in mind and to use the local materials, and of course to design for children. And yeah, that was very like a complex assignment, but I really enjoyed that.
But you managed. Yeah. Can you show us a little bit about what you actually did for the project?
So yeah, that was my final results of the project. So as you can see, the landscape is pretty different from the Netherlands. So also it was challenging for me to really design a totally different climate. It's a tropical climate. So, but that I really enjoyed that. I've learned a lot, and I just look forward for different other projects that are coming for the next semester. So yeah, that's
For this, you also went to Saba, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. What was it like over there?
Yes, actually, in the middle of semester, a group of students organized a study trip to San Martin and Saba, so we could go and actually feel the atmosphere by ourselves and really talk to local people. And for me personally, that really influenced my design afterwards. I wasn't aware of different details of how the people are over there, and I really enjoyed that. It was an amazing experience for the project, for myself, and just a nice addition for the whole stressful situation.
Anything in particular that you could point out that you say, oh, this changed because of your time there?
Just maybe some small details, like during the trip we've seen like different cities over there, and they really pay attention for some small details, like for example this pattern of the facade. So I implemented it also to my design to kind of keep the local character over there.
Yeah. Are these kinds of trips standard parts of the studio projects, or were you just very lucky to go to the Caribbean?
Like for this semester, there were students that organized it, and we were very motivated. And I guess it's the same for the other studios, but sometimes it's obligatory to go for an excursion. This was not, because obviously it's far and it's hard to organize, but we are very motivated to go. It's yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I hope that the other students also can do the same.
Yeah. Do you think they will do anything with these designs? Is it going to make a difference to the communities in Saba?
Actually, that's a really good thing about this project, because that's a real project that is going to be built. We don't know still which design, etc. But we had a budget before. We had all the necessary details provided from teachers. So actually, that's something for architects, for architecture students, that is great, that we are really doing something realistic and nothing really artificial or just conceptual. So
yeah, it's not that this was an imaginary project that you have to, oh, well, maybe someday someone will build
that was amazing. Like we could really like dive into details and really be almost engineers to really do a complex design. So that was great, and I think everyone learned so much.
Yeah. I see a question come in from the audience as well. What allowed you to enter into the architecture space? Whether you had a related bachelor or something else? Well,
yes.
I think you did, since you mentioned the internships in architecture, but maybe you can tell a little bit more.
Yes, of course. So I did my bachelor also at technical university, but in Poland. It was also architecture, but more focused in the engineering part. So then I did my gap year just to see if I like working in the architecture environment and to see if I want to continue it. But yes, I'm graduated from architecture field, so I continued the same track, let's say, for my master. But I feel like my gap year and my professional experience really helped me to actually realize how I like it and how actually I miss studies. So that was kind of necessary for me to realize that I also want to apply abroad and apply especially here.
And do a master's.
Yes,
yeah. So what's the added value you feel so far of the master's? I mean, of course, you're still in it.
Yes. I feel like especially people that I meet here, they are so different, they are great, and they come from different backgrounds, and we can learn from each other a lot, and they're all very motivated, and it's just great to work with those people, and also with different tutors that are really helpful and supportive. So I really feel like when you enter the faculty, you can feel it, that they are like people that really want to work in this field, and it's very inspiring. So that's great.
Yeah. How is the international community here in Delft?
Actually, it's great. I think in the architecture faculty, 25% almost are international students. So it's a lot, because we are like 400 for architecture track students. So 100 is international. But also like, of course, Dutch people, this is all all classes are in English, so I don't feel not welcomed here. I feel like at home, and it's just amazing to meet all of those people, and yeah, I just like it.
Yeah. How is it different from Poland if you look at some of the cultural
Yeah.
challenges maybe
Yeah,
of
of
integrating?
Yeah, of course, like in Poland, we didn't have a lot of international students, and that was like a one type of society, let's say. And here I really like it that I can discover different cultures and also discuss it. And yeah, this is like experience that you cannot have in your own country just with the people from your nationality. So this is an additional value, I guess. This is the main value, I would say, from the students and tutors that you learn from.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have any last pieces of advice for everyone who's listening in?
Yes, actually, especially for international students, there's like a big list of requirements to enter actually master studies of architecture, and I would say don't be afraid of that because it might look scary because it's like a lot to prepare, a lot of different documents, but once you dive into that, it's not that hard. And also when you hesitate to go and not really check carefully the program because they have different studios, and I'm sure everyone will find something for themselves.
Yeah. So don't be too afraid to apply, even if it sounds like a lot of work.
Yes,
it's
doable. Exactly.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you
for joining us. Yeah, wonderful. And then we have our final Mentimeter for this session. We'll switch back to that for a second. So we're refreshing that to a new question, namely, which master's programs are you going to visit this week? There's so many to choose from, of course. So we're curious to know, where are you planning to go? Maybe some of the themes that we've covered here in the past hour almost are going to inspire you to visit some more. But of course, you can still register for any of the specific master's programs that we're showcasing this week on the website, which I'll come back to at the very end for a second. I see the first one's already popping up. Wonderful. We'll get back to that at the end of the session. We still have one more speaker to cover, namely Friso Hartog, who's working on climate and energy. He graduated a little while ago at the master's program for aerospace engineering. Friso, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you finished your master's and now you're still at the TU Delft campus. What are you doing with us?
That's a very good question. So actually, from my master's research, together with a few others, we started a spin-off startup company called MuTech, and we develop technologies and products that reduce aerodynamic noise in the research field of what we call aeroacoustics. And maybe a nice image here is where we do that. So this is actually a wind tunnel, an anechoic wind tunnel, where you can do very detailed noise measurements, and where we also do the research and the development. And as said, we develop these technologies and products. And the first product that we're developing we call MuteSkin, which is a permeable material that you can add later, retrofit to a wind turbine blade. So this is actually a model of a real wind turbine blade, and it reduces the noise that is produced by such a blade. And for onshore wind energy, this can make them less noisy and therefore more efficient operationally. So that's basically in the elevator pitch in a nutshell what we do now and why I'm still happy to be here.
Yeah, because you're situated actually on the TU Delft campus with your spin-off. Right?
Exactly. So we're at one of the top floors of the aerospace engineering faculty in what's called the Aerospace Innovation Hub, which is a sort of pre-incubator for startups in the aerospace engineering sector to bring all these people starting new innovations together with big companies, with the research facilities, and is really where the innovation goes from the lab to the field, and that's also where we're situated.
Yeah, and we have this for aerospace engineering. For everyone else who's coming from different disciplines, we also have a lot of these startup hubs like Yes Delft and now also Next Delft on the campus where student entrepreneurs come and settle down and develop their ideas after their master's program. But since we're here for your project, well, I think first one of my own curiosities almost, the skin, does it just reduce the noise? Does it actually make a difference also for the performance of the wind turbines, or how? What are the benefits other than noise cancellation?
You could be part of a wind turbine company, because this is actually the question that they all ask.
Yeah.
So the purpose is noise reduction, obviously, but then one of the other criteria, as with all products, you can't only design for one criterion. So the other criteria is that it's what we call aerodynamically neutral. So it has as little as possible performance on the lift and the drag of the blade, while maximizing the noise performance. And that's also the trade-off that we have to make, and that we're currently investigating in the lab. And so far, all the signs are on green with the scaled model, and we're now testing that at full scale, and the first indications look very positive. But indeed, that's also one of the requirements we have to consider. But also material requirements, fatigue, UV, and there you see that something that starts within an aerodynamics lab can have, in terms of technology and engineering background, much more aspects that you have to take into account as well.
Yeah, and you're studying a lot of this together with master students. I think you mentioned that there's actually one of the current master students on the image here.
Exactly. So what here sees actually the low turbulence tunnel at the low speed laboratory here on the campus, and we work together because it's the bridge from academia to getting a product. So it's still a lot of research, a lot of development, and we do that together with interns, but also with master thesis students. For example, from the Faculty of Aerospace Engineering, but we're also open to students from other master's programs and material science and physics to really develop this product. And then also, as the company grows, it's a nice opportunity to get to know each other. Also for students to see, hey, it's working at a startup, something that would be something that I would want after my master thesis. And I think it's a wonderful way to collaborate with the university on this topic.
Yeah. So, and how does this tie in then with the master's program and how you ended up at the spin-off?
Yeah, that's a very good question as well. How this ties, so with master thesis and internships, ties into the program for aerospace engineering back in my day, was that the internship was mandatory part of the master's degree. And then the thesis is also a mandatory part for all masters. And especially at aerospace engineering, it's a long project, so you really get the time to dive into this. Now, for my own story, it's actually pretty funny. I did a bachelor's at aerospace engineering here. And then when I wanted to choose a master, so I was in the position where all the viewers are now, I was not very good at choosing. So I wanted to make a choice that was as broad as possible. So I chose for the flight performance and propulsion track within aerospace engineering, because it was the broadest. It had aerodynamics, it had propulsion, it had aircraft design. And then I also took electives in systems and control engineering. So that's where I started a few years ago. And then by coincidence, I met a lot of other cool people that were doing research into aerodynamics and turbulence. And then I decided to do my master thesis into turbulent boundary layers over permeable surfaces. And that was in a research lab where other people were also researching flow over permeable materials, but then for noise reduction. And basically with all these different people working in different research projects, so it was the aeroacoustics research group, but also the aircraft noise and climate effects section. Basically, we decided to do a project together, which followed on their research, and that project culminated in the end in the founding of the startup MUTEC. So it's a very long story short. I started here in aircraft design and ended up in aeroacoustics for, amongst others, onshore wind, but also in the future for aviation, for ventilation, for drones, everything where noise pollution is going to become a problem in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and that's also, I think, maybe a partial answer to one of the questions that the viewers might be having. Mm-hmm. How does this tie in with the climate and energy theme that we announced right from the start of your pitch?
A very fair question. I think there are two answers to that question. The first is energy. The direct impact that we have now and aim to have is with this first product, MuteSkin. So what not all people know, maybe some in the Netherlands, but not all know that wind turbine noise is becoming a big problem. A lot of wind turbines in the northwest of Europe, they could be producing more electricity, but because of noise regulations, they have to be turned down or completely off, sometimes at night, sometimes during the day. So we're missing out on a lot of power in the winds. And with more silent turbines, because of our product MuteSkin, you can let them operate at better efficiencies, and there's more space for new wind turbines, which is one of the best ways for cost-efficient green electricity. So that's the short answer for energy. Then if you look at climate in the broader sense, we now know that, or at least the WHO admits that noise pollution is sort of underappreciated problem. We talk about CO2 and biodiversity, but noise pollution for people is also a problem in the living climate, the lived environment. And our mission is to develop products and technologies that enable a world that's not only more sustainable in terms of energy, but also more sustainable in terms of lived environment. So less noise and more peaceful environment. And I think that's something that everybody can attest to, that would be nice in the end to have a nice living environment. Yeah. So that's, I think, how such a niche science, such as aeroacoustics, can have a very big impact on society in terms of lived environment. And that's something that we want to contribute to.
Yeah. And the entrepreneurship is an important part of actually realizing that. Did you also have some room during the masters to prepare you for those next steps?
Yeah, there are definitely initiatives both at the faculty, also at TU Delft in the broader sense. What I know, especially at the faculty, is that we started off with the startup innovation voucher. I think it's at different faculties where ideas can be, they get a small grant and some coaching to take a first idea from zero to something, and then from there they can realize follow-up funding. But there are a lot of different things for students that are interested in entrepreneurship. There are entire courses on entrepreneurship, build your startup at a different faculty. There are initiatives outside of the university, but closely tied to the university. Yes, Delft students, collaborations with other universities. So I think there's an increasingly strong network and environment for starting startups for students. So it's something I'm very happy to see, and it's a very positive thing to see everybody bringing stuff out of the lab and into the field, as we like to call it.
Yeah, which is an important part of the work we do at the TU Delft. And for anyone who's interested in that aspect of the master's programs, you can always take a look at tudelft.nl/entrepreneurship, where we have a nice overview of the different courses and options that you have as an entrepreneur. In the meantime, Friso, are there some final things that you want to impart to all the students who are watching on how to choose these masters, what kind of options or considerations they can take with them?
Yeah, I think if I can link that to my own story, my greatest piece of advice would be now just make a choice based on what you find interesting now and what you're passionate about now, and don't try to choose something now for some imaginary future in a few years, because you never know how things will evolve. I'm doing something completely different from what I started out with a few years ago. So choose something that propels you and gives you energy now, and on your road during your masters, keep doing new stuff. So take new courses, different extracurriculars, meet new people. Don't always do the projects with the same persons. Start new initiatives, join the dream team. Search novelty in your master's degree, and then in the end you have to have a bit of faith that it will all work well as long as you work hard and follow what is your interest at that moment. And if that by coincidence is something in the field of aeroacoustics or aerodynamics or material science or physics, or in general being part of startup focusing on the climate and energy space, you can always reach out to me and discuss what kind of possibilities there might be in that space.
Yeah, thanks. So for anyone who's interested, you can take a quick screenshot of the QR code. And thank you so much, Friso, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and all these opportunities for challenging yourself really are very much part of the TU Delft. Friso briefly mentioned the Dream Teams, which is another nice initiative to touch on, as these are student groups in their masters working on different technologies like solar cars, but also AI for social good, as a team competing in competitions and pushing science forward. That brings us a little bit to the close of the session for today. So we have our final Mentimeter, which we can switch back to for a minute. I see lots of people going to computer science, robotics, architecture. Yeah, so very nice to know that at least for the architecture students that the admission requirements are not as scary as they might look, but also mechanical engineering, sustainable energy tech, which is a nice link back to climate engineering, multi-machine engineering, chemical engineering. Yeah, there's such a nice broad perspective. Civil engineering as well, aerospace, of course, management. So I am, of course, a little bit biased because I'm over at the TPM faculty, but it's always nice to see things like management of technology, social studies pop up here. So I wish you a lot of fun orienting with those different master's programs that you're going to. As we mentioned, you can always still sign up for them at tudelft.nl/mastersweek. And I hope that the session now today, this last hour, is giving you a bit more of a feeling for all the different themes that we have at the TU Delft, the way in which we try to bring technology into society, try to work on having an impact on improving society, on these big challenges that we have on digital society, on health, on the urban environment, as well as on climate and engineering and energy challenges. If you want to know more about the admissions process, you can stay tuned because there will be another session on admissions right after this, starting at 6 o'clock. There will be program sessions later today, as well as tomorrow and on Wednesday. And then finally, there is this master's market on the campus on Thursday this week. So we hope to see you at least some of these events. Again, have a lot of fun figuring out these different master's programs, getting to know the TU Delft a little bit better. And from all of us here at the studio in Delft, have a wonderful evening.